When you invest outside of your borders, you're able to take advantage of opportunities that you may not have locally. I think a critical aspect of it is understanding how to evaluate markets that are outside of your borders, and then making sure you're able to have a system in place to vet and create good partnerships with people that are boots on the ground.
Welcome to the Going Long Podcast. We're back once again to continue to help to educate you so that you feel much more comfortable as well as confident investing beyond your backyard. Yes, I'm your host, Billy Keels, and it gives me great pleasure to welcome you back to another episode, another conversation that you are going to get so much out of. Trust me, today's conversation is absolutely awesome. And you know what? Speaking of absolutely awesome and all the things that continue to happen because you continue to come back, you continue to download, you continue to write your honest written reviews and leave ratings, sharing the podcast with your friends. We continue to move up the podcast charts together. And you know what? I just want to say thank you for that right up front. And if you have not had a chance yet to leave your honest written review, just take a couple seconds to do that, especially if you're on the Apple platform. We love it there. And we made a little simple video for you. Check it out. Leave an honest written review and rating. Just takes a couple seconds, especially nowadays you've got some time. We'd appreciate that. Also, a lot of you are asking as well, like, where can you find previous episodes? If you just go to billykeels.com, once you get to billykeels.com, go to the podcast tab. You can see every single episode that was ever released. You can see the video version, the audio version. Check it out. Once again, go to billykeels.com, check out the podcast tab, and you will absolutely be able to find anything and everything that you need. Lastly, for those of you who are accredited investors, I would really like to get to know you, especially if you're interested in finding out more about new opportunities, learning from other accredited investors. Send an email to aiclub@billykeels.com, and that'll get to me. You and I have a chance to have a conversation, get you part of the club. We're just getting started, so it's like very grassroots right now. So just send an email to aiclub@billykeels.com. We'll get connected, get you into the group, and you can connect and hang out with some other accredited investors. So as for today's conversation, wow, this one's a great conversation, especially for those of you, like if you can think when you were in college, if you were thinking about, hey, listen, I'm in college, I'm going to finish my degree, but at the same time, I want to really be doing something else. Like today's conversation is one that you're going to listen to, because not only today's guest going to college, he in the summertime was working. He really had this entrepreneurial flair where he really wanted to get out, start his own business. A lot of that happened because he missed seeing his dad and when he was playing sports growing up and seeing things like that. And he didn't want to be that kind of dad, right? And so that was one of the things that helped to push him, propel him to go out and start his own company, be his own boss, and most importantly, the owner of his time. And so you're going to really love that. He's going to talk to you about some of the different processes that he's put into place to help both active and passive investors. Specifically, he's focusing on helping other accredited investors as well. And he's even started a franchise model for people that are going into new locations. So there's so many different wonderful stories that you're going to hear about how you can continue to move forward, even if you're really busy and you have a full-time professional role, or professional job. Talk about focusing on relationships, not just focusing on the money. And when that starts to happen, wow, amazing things can happen. So I'm really looking forward to sharing today's conversation with Mike Sowers. And we're going to get to that conversation just after this. Whether you're an active investor or a passive investor, you really like your day job and you want to continue to go into your day job every single day feeling better, knowing that you've created the right options for yourself. At the same time, you just don't have enough time to really get your head around, spend all the hours investing long distance. Well, one way or the other, over the last number of years that I have been investing long distance, I've really understood a number of the major mistakes that you should avoid if you want to get to creating the right options for yourself much faster and being able to create more income sooner. And if you want to do that, if you want to understand more about that, I've made it really, really simple. You can just go to billykeels.com/7 mistakes to avoid. You can learn all the things that the 7 major mistakes that I've seen over and over again that I want you to avoid. Once again, you can go to billykeels.com/7 mistakes to avoid. So if you want the step-by-step guide to finding and funding your very first commercial real estate investment, then guess what? today's a conversation that you're really going to want to listen to until the very last word. You know why? Because not only did today's guest literally write the book on it, literally wrote the book on it, he also he was the owner of his own executive remodeling company, and I'm sure he's going to tell us loads and loads about that. Since then, he's done a number of different things. For instance, like I said, he wrote the book on it, the book of commercial real estate investing, the step-by-step guide to finding and funding your first deal. He's also the host of the Creative Commercial Real Estate podcast, and he is the CEO of Commercial Investors Group. I'd like to welcome to today's conversation, Mr. Mike Sowers. Mike, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Hey, man, this is going to be a really cool conversation. I love the space that you're playing in. I'm sure that you're going to add so much value to the entire Going Long family. And I really want us to get into today's conversation. So let's go ahead and just do that. And, everybody here at the Going Long family knows that you're going to get 5 questions. You're going to get 2 in the beginning. You're going to get 3 in the end. And then in the middle, we're just going to get a chance to know you. And I'm going to probably ask you a bunch of questions. And I have no idea what those questions are right now, but we'll get to them. But to get things started off, Mike, help us understand, where do you live in the United States?
I'm in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and that is the north central part of the United States. We have the most lakes of any other state. So it's fantastic in the summer. And they say we have 4 seasons. We have almost winter, winter, still winter, and road construction.
I love that. And by the way, if you go over to Mike's website, and he'll tell us a little bit about it later. He's got I love this land of 10,000 plus lakes, where you also on the website, you can see that he shows the 4 seasons that he's talking about, and he does it very, very well, he and his team. So I appreciate you sharing where you are in the United States. The other thing, Mike, I'd really love for you to share with us, what's the most positive thing that's happened to you in the last 24 hours?
Oh man, I got a personal and a professional. My personal was I woke up this morning and I got my little guy ready. He's almost 1. And we walked into the room and my daughter, who's 2.5, was snuggling with my wife. And it was a beautiful scene. And a professional win is last night we had a deal that was supposed to close yesterday going south. The guy called me super angry and we were able to calm him down and renegotiate the deal. And it worked out well for my investors.
All right. Fantastic. So bringing value to the investors, fantastic. And also when you have those moments, especially when you have little kids, like my boys are grown now and they're bigger and all that other kind of stuff, enjoy those moments because they are absolutely precious. And I'm sure everybody who's running on the treadmill or driving or whatever, they're like, yeah, definitely do that. Because when your kids get bigger, they don't like to cuddle so much. But but listen, here's the thing, Mike. I give myself this impossible task. I try to tell your backstory in like 3 seconds. Never going to happen, right? You've done way too many things, impacted way too many lives. So what I'd love for you to share with me and the Going Long family is also tell us a little bit more about your backstory. Tell it in your own words. The one thing I would ask is if you could talk to us about some of the specific decisions that you've made to get to this point in your journey. And then from there, we'll see where the conversation goes.
Sure. I went to college for entrepreneurial studies and finance at a local business school here. And I had a decision to make whether I wanted to start my own business or go into commercial real estate. But after running a painting company for a couple summers and making more than all the other kids in college, but working 20 hours a week, it was really tough for me to sign on for a 7 to 7 cold calling job, being at the bottom of the barrel in a cubicle in a commercial real estate firm. So I decided to start my own remodeling business and I grew that up. There's a thing called insurance restoration in our country, and that's where insurance companies pay for hail damage on roofs. And we were able to grow an insurance restoration business where we did a lot of roofs, hundreds of roofs every year. And then we also had a design and remodeling division where we would do kitchens, bathrooms, and basement remodels. And I was earning good income, and I would use that income to flip houses on the side or wholesale or buy rental properties. And so I grew a portfolio, and I did that for over a decade, and something happened. I got burned out. I really wanted to do something that got me excited again. I got bored. And honestly, the low barriers to entry in the construction game made it very difficult for me to get excited because anybody and everybody could get into the game. And I just saw the writing on the wall that I promised myself if I wasn't passionate about the business anymore, that I was going to hang the keys up. And so I was looking to relocate to a warmer state. And I was actually down there looking at condos with my wife, and I was about to get on the elevator. And I got a phone call from a business broker, and he said he had a couple buyers who wanted to buy my construction company. I was like, who wants to buy a construction company? But he's like, well, you have this software that you built. And I did. I built a custom software that allowed a 15-year-old to be able to estimate a kitchen in 30 minutes or less. and do a full design. And so essentially they bought the people and they bought the software. And I ended up selling that company. And I was like, well, I finally have enough money to do commercial real estate. I bought into the lie that you need hundreds of thousands of dollars to do commercial real estate. And so I started buying commercial real estate properties. And what happened is I ran out of money pretty quickly. And then I had to learn the skill of how to raise capital from other people, which is probably the most coveted skill. And so fast forward 4 years, that's where we're at. I ended up getting all out of all my residential deals. And once I realized how much more exciting, how much more lucrative, and how much more rewarding commercial real estate is when you're dealing with business to business sales, I completely got out of the residential game. I broke off the rearview mirror, and we've been going gangbusters ever since. And so I ended up starting to write a manual that would train other people on how to do this. And that essentially formed into the book that I published, which is available on Amazon. And then what we did is we formed a private equity company where we raise money from people in large chunks now to allow them to invest in deals with us as a passive partner and get diversification across multiple assets. And then the third thing we've done is our system has been so successful in our local market that we got approached by a company who was like, hey, you should start franchising this. Did you know there's no commercial real estate investing franchises anywhere on planet Earth? And so we took the opportunity and we started a company called CIG Franchise Systems. And we now are officially the only commercial real estate investing specific franchise system on the planet right now. So that's something we've been growing. We opened our first 2 locations in Denver and Colorado Springs, Colorado. And we have a few more locations we're going to be opening here. And our goal is to grow to a couple hundred locations here in the next 5 to 7 years.
Fantastic. So growth, being able to recognize a market opportunity, expanding on that. And one of the things that just absolutely, I'm sure I love what you just said. And I'm sure that so many people that are here that are part of the Going Long family love what you just said is you just started these franchises brand new, the only ones in the world, which I think is with the franchise system, the only one in the world in the space that you're playing. And you said that they are in Colorado Springs and Denver. Is that what you said? Right?
Yeah, that's where our first 2 locations were.
Okay. So those were the first 2 locations were. And you also said that you are going to be moving to other places. So my question to you is, you mentioned in the very beginning that you were in Minnesota, and then you just said that you were going beyond your borders into Colorado, number one. But a lot of times people always say, like, whatever you do, you have to do it in your backyard, right? And so when you're not in your backyard, you basically are going long distance, which is kind of the whole premise of this show, right? Is helping people to feel comfortable and confident investing beyond their backyard. But that goes against popular culture, man. So why in the world would you ever think about expanding your business beyond where your home is and doing it in 2 different places?
Diversification and availability of opportunity. Because when you invest outside of your borders, you're able to take advantage of opportunities that you may not have locally. I think a critical aspect of it is understanding how to evaluate markets that are outside of your borders, and then making sure you're able to have a system in place to vet and create good partnerships with people that are boots on the ground. Because there is benefits of having local market knowledge. But it doesn't mean that you have to have local market knowledge. It means that you have to leverage your relationships with people that have local market knowledge.
Man, that is music to my ears. And if you're not watching us on the video, I went blurry there for a little bit ago. But the smile on my face when he just said like the partnerships and things like that, it's just ear to ear. And his is too. So definitely jump over and check us out on the video version. You'll see 2 very happy people. So you mentioned that it's about teamwork, right? Which is very much in line with what I love to talk about, right? First of all, be very clear on what it is that you want in terms of a benefit that you're looking to derive. Go to the location where you can get the best probability or the highest probability of that happening. Build a rock star team. And then whatever the asset is, as long as it's aligned with the previous 3 things, then you have a highest probability of success, right? But sometimes people stumble on that 3rd step, which is about building the team. Now, I know that you're a very process-driven guy. Anybody who is, putting together franchises and helping people get out there and also replicate the process, I would love for you to share with us, Mike, like what are some of the things that you see are really, really important and the cornerstones for building successful teams, especially when you live in another location?
Well, first of all, I think you got to realize that hiring, training, and managing people, whether they're employees, 1099 contractors, or you're just doing strategic partnerships, it is a sales process, right? So you want to have really good marketing to cast your net wide. You want to have a great sales process where you can vet people out. And then if they're good, secure the right people for the positions. And it really doesn't matter if they're an employee or an independent contractor, just somebody that you're doing a service contract with, in my opinion. It's all the same. You want to find good people and you want to pay them what they're worth. I think so often we try and downplay it by getting the cheapest people. And I think that there's value in hiring the right people and then letting them grow with you and giving them the training they need. The other thing that we've been able to utilize, I alluded to it in my previous story about my construction company, but is utilizing technology to kind of homogenize processes across different areas of the business. So we started a company for you software geeks out there, if you're in software sales. It's called CRE Tool Software, and it is the only end-to-end software available in the commercial real estate investing business that is specific to doing multi-channel direct marketing, deal analysis, funding, and due diligence, all wrapped in one thing. Now, we had a choice to make whether we wanted to build that into a multi-million-dollar service software as a service business, or whether we wanted to just keep it in-house proprietary. And we decided that it made more sense for us to just allow our franchisees only to have access to the software. And it really creates a competitive advantage. Because think about this, right? I want to expand into multiple markets. I can either go hire a bunch of people in those markets or I can sell franchises. And when people open a franchise, now I have boots on the ground. There are people who are in that market. But if I didn't have a software that everybody used, I would have everybody analyzing deals differently using spreadsheets. Right. And what's the first thing you do when you get a spreadsheet? You start modifying formulas and adding columns and rows and formatting. Right. So it would make the process very difficult for us to underwrite deals because every spreadsheet I'm looking at would be different. Yep. So what we did is we put a software in place to streamline those processes. And then we also created a series of Google spreadsheets where individual spreadsheets that the property management companies use, they flow up through like import ranges and things like that into one master spreadsheet. So we can look at our entire portfolio on one dashboard. And we even have conditional formatting that allows different things to pop out at you if things are off. And so we've allowed the utilization of technology and good franchise people out there in the field to give us access to other really good markets, but reduce a lot of the risk because everybody's doing it the same exact way.
And so once again, this is where you combine technology. One of the questions I was getting ready to ask you is like, why, what was the reason for keeping it in-house? But when you have a very clear strategy, and this is another competitive advantage, which is part of how you're helping people to solve an issue, which is how do I go into a market? How do I make sure that I'm moving as quickly as possible, as efficiently as possible, and as effectively as possible, right? And that's through your franchise model. So that absolutely makes a lot of sense. Wow, don't you just love this conversation? This is amazing. This is fantastic. And so just really quickly, I just wanted to remind you, for those of you that are looking to create more options for yourself, get there faster, and do that with long distance investing, make sure that you go to billykeels.com/7 mistakes to avoid so that you can avoid all those mistakes, get to your goals faster and sooner. Once again, that's billykeels.com/7 mistakes to avoid. Now back to the conversation. Maybe one of the things to build on this, or actually, before I even say that, you're definitely amongst friends here when you start talking about different workflows and different spreadsheets and processes and things like that. So yeah, we do a lot of that here and talk about a lot of that kind of stuff here, or at least understand it. But what do you think is one of the biggest reasons that investors, whether they're doing it actively or passively, right, that they fail to achieve the results that they're looking for when they're going, I'll leave it at that. When they fail to get the results that they're looking for initially?
Well, I'd say on the passive investors, you really only have one decision to make to see success, and that's choose the right person to put your money with. And so that is oftentimes a hard decision to make because sometimes it's just hard to figure out who people are. But do your research. And once you've found a good person, if they have a good strategy and they have a good system, then invest heavily with them. And so I think as a passive partner, the reason people fail is they put their money into deals without even understanding who the person is that's really responsible for that. And look, I believe that people can make or break it. This is a people business. You can have a bad deal, but if you have a good deal sponsor, they can make that deal still go pretty good and not lose money and at least deliver some returns. But you can have the best deal in the world, and if you have a bad deal sponsor who doesn't respond well to outside factors that happen, like during COVID, for example, I saw a lot of people crumble and go under, and we doubled our business. We delivered every return that we promised, and that's because we were nimble and because humility is one of our core values. And so we never adopt the mindset that we have it all figured out. In fact, I think it's a strength when you're able to admit that you're always learning. You never truly arrive. That's why I go on podcasts and have a show myself, because we're always learning. We're always trying to stay on top of things, and we're always looking for our blind spots. So find the right deal sponsor. Now, as an active deal sponsor, it comes down to lead generation, in my opinion. If you go ask any broker in any market, like, hey, how are the deals in this market? Right now, if you go into most metros, they'll be like, the market's tough. Everything's tough. And I just smile ear to ear, because it's like, really? Because we're doing, 2 to 3 properties we're acquiring every single month. And there's a lot of meat left on the bone. We bought one 2 months ago for $1.75 million. We sold it yesterday for $2.9 million. I literally didn't even touch it. And we see deals day in and day out that are really good deals that we're netting 7 figures plus on, or able to buy a property and hold it and create 5 digits per month in passive income from one property. So like 10,000 plus from a single property. So when people are failing out there, it's usually because they don't have a good marketing system to look at enough deals. It's like flipping cards, right? They flip a 2, they flip a 3, and they flip a 4. If they're relying on brokers to bring them their deals, they come to the conclusion that there's no good cards out there. But when you have a marketing system where you're looking at 90 to 100 off-market deals every month, and you just keep flipping cards, eventually you're going to find an ace. And it takes us 30 to 50 deals and offers for us to find one good deal. And we can only achieve that kind of success from having a marketing system. So I think it's usually people that are failing on the active side just aren't looking at enough deals because they have a bad marketing system. That's my opinion.
Yeah, well, and I appreciate you sharing that opinion. And it's one of the things, once again, helping to educate the Going Long family and providing your perspective. So now, of course, we have a lot of people that are in sales and in sales leadership here. And so whenever you talk about the big deal, right, people want to understand, okay, well, yeah, was that just like a one-off? Because you just talked to us about how you made this massive flip. Can you go back to that and just maybe unpack it? Because a lot of times there aren't major secrets. It's just you have to cast the net wide enough. And you just mentioned that you had a 6-figure turn in very little amount of time. Are you in a point where you could actually talk to us about how you were able to create so much value in such little time?
Yeah. So, look, the process is super simple for us. We use our software and we do multi-channel direct marketing: email, text, ringless voicemail, phone calls, and direct mail. And we hit property owners in our markets over and over and over again. Eventually they respond, and I go out and meet with them and I make offers. And sometimes the deals work and sometimes they don't. And here's the secret. It's not about getting the deal under market. I'll pay full market value, but I only focus on properties where I can increase the underlying earnings and the underlying multiple of those earnings that the market's willing to pay. It's no different. Real estate is a business, and a business is valued at its EBITDA times a market multiple, like the PE ratio. And so in our business, all I'm trying to do is find properties where I can significantly increase the underlying earnings and then de-risk that income stream so that somebody's willing to pay a higher multiple for it. And when I can create significantly more value than it costs me to create that value, that's the profit that we're able to achieve. Our typical deal might be something like we buy a $3 million property, we put $1 million into it, fixing it, filling the vacancies, putting new management in place, getting the leases cleaned up, getting consistent leases across all of them and written leases. And then we hold on to it for a year or two, and maybe that building's worth $5 million, and we can refinance it, get a new loan for $4 million, pay our investors their money back, and then hold on to it as a long-term cash flow play. Or maybe we sell it and exchange into another property. So that's what a typical deal would look like. The one that you're talking about was kind of a weird one-off scenario where we didn't actually have to do anything to it. And I think the play there was a guy had sold his operating business 2 years prior but still own the real estate. He's an older gentleman, great guy. And I think he just took a liking to my VP of acquisitions, and he saw us as some younger guys. And he's like, I like these guys. I want to help them out. He has more money than he'll ever be able to spend. And he was like, look, I'm just looking to do an easy deal. I don't want to list all 5 of these properties with a broker and do the due diligence and all that. He's like, make me a fair offer and we'll do a deal. And we bought all 5 for $2.5 million, and we chunked them off, and we're selling them all off. I sold 2 yesterday for 2.9. We sold another one for 4.25. And then we have the remaining 2. I think we'll get about $850 for them. So when you do the math, it's like a little over $4 million. And we'll clear some pretty good numbers on those. But it's not uncommon in commercial real estate on a flip to make $300, $500, or even $1 million on a flip, but literally doing the same exact amount of work as flipping a single family house. Mm-hmm. And I wish somebody had told me this 10 years ago, because I would have got out of construction so much sooner and stopped flipping houses.
Shocker. No, you know what? And it's interesting because I'm sure that there's someone that's listening to you share that story right now, and they're thinking, I know he's saying that, but that's not really, that can't be. It can't be just as easy or easier to do something that's much larger in terms of quantity than going to buy the place that's just down the street from me, that single family residence. And no matter how many times you say it, you can say it until you're blue in the face, until you actually make that leap, then it becomes real. And you can either do that directly, or you could even, find people that are doing that and get up close, invest with them passively, and then learn how to do it and be able to do it much, much faster, which is, I know, something else that you also do. One of the things that you mentioned in the very beginning, I do want to come back to this because I think this is really awesome. So you were actually in college when you started your business, right?
Yep.
Which I just think is phenomenal. So talk to us about what that was like for you, because a lot of times college students are just in college to have fun. I was in college and I was there. I mean, I had a job as well, but I wasn't thinking about building a business. And I don't know if you were thinking about building a business at that time, but talk to us maybe about what that experience of going to college, building a business, what that has helped you to do to accelerate the growth of your business and also help others today.
Look, man, there's 2 skills that I think if you want to be truly successful as an entrepreneur, you need to have. And I would attribute the vast majority of my success to these 2 skills: sense of urgency and a burning desire to achieve your goals quickly. My parents were divorced. I love both of my parents. My mom's passed away, but my dad, he was a traveling salesman, and his philosophy was work really hard, go to college, and then get a good job and save your way to retirement. And I hated the idea of retirement because what I watched my dad doing was not being at my soccer games. And there was one other kid's dad who was at every single soccer game. And I was like, what does that guy do for a living? They're like, he owns his own machine shop. So I made a decision at a very young age, like 12 years old, that I was going to own my own business. So in college, after my first semester, I was at a career fair, and I met this company, and it was the only internship of all the internships that would allow you to run your own business. And it was College Pro Painters, and they allowed you to franchise. You opened a franchise of College Pro Painters, and you ran your own painting company. And so that's what I did. It was an opportunity to run my own business. So I did that for 2 summers, and then I branched off and started my own business. My senior year is what ended up happening.
Right on. But and one of the things that is lovely, because there are so many people that are listening, that are watching. I've been there. Like I was the dad who was on the plane and was traveling somewhere else and missed some events, and it happened to me later. But eventually you get to a point and you're like, wow, the really important stuff is actually when your kid looks over to the right or to the left, that they actually see you at the game, right? Or at the match or at the recital or whatever the case may be. And the fact that you learned that from an early age, that helped to drive a lot of the decisions that you were making and just the motivation and the way that you went through things. And I think a lot of times we try to look for this, like, what's the major thing that helped us to become the person we are. And many times it's just what we lived in a day-to-day basis. So I appreciate your vulnerability and sharing that with us because it's something that's super important. And I know it's a message that a lot of the Going Long family needed to hear, man. So I do want to ask you, so talk about one last thing, because we talked about the building the team and you talked about the franchise. You also have this teacher in you as well, right? Because you've learned things and you've talked about teaching and you've talked about building tools and you've talked about building systems, building a franchise. Where does that come from, man? That desire to teach and help to educate others?
I think the best teachers are also really good students. And I was a 4.0 student. I'm always learning. I'm always trying to get better. And I just love teaching other people, because at some point your scorecard has to change. Yeah. And I went through a life-changing event after my mom committed suicide. And it was like, hey, man, you can always make more money, but you can't generate more time. And so it's like you work really hard. You think I'm gonna graduate or I'm gonna start my own business, and then you're gonna finally feel fulfilled. And you get there, and it's just like something still isn't there, right? And so you're always like chasing this feeling of that you finally made it. And what I realized is that the only way you can truly get that feeling is through your relationship with God. And so I took a step back in my life, and I realized that time is the most precious resource. And I was very careful as I built this round of my business versus my construction company that I did not build a system that I became a slave to. And I'm very particular on ensuring that my freedom of time and my flexibility is my core asset. And it's not about making more money. It's about blessing more lives. And that's what really drives my passion for helping franchisees get started. I have an online course that helps people. It's why I gave away every secret of what we're exactly doing in my book. My wife's like, you're crazy. You're literally giving away all of your secrets. I'm like, there's two things. One, 99% of people aren't going to do anything with it. And the 1% that do, it's going to bless their life. They're going to do deals. They're going to find the freedom we're able to experience. And that is the impact that I want to leave on the world, because my scorecard is how many lives I can bless and help them through my system to become financially free.
I love that, man. And I do have a mic, but I can't drop it here because then that would kind of ruin the conversation. Man, that just, I don't know what to say after that. It was just awesome. And it makes a lot of sense. And sometimes when you are chasing the money and you don't realize how insignificant it can be, but when you're really interested in learning more and then sharing what you learn with others, it is very, very impactful. And I understand exactly what you say when you're talking about the 99% probably will never do it. Like they'll have the intention of doing it and they won't. But that 1%, when they come back and they tell you, hey, listen, Mike, I'm so glad that you took the time to write this. I put this into place. And this is the way that it touched my life, that it blessed others' lives and things like that. So appreciate you sharing that, man. Listen, there's one thing that like we kind of have to get into the going long final three. But the thing is, Mike, I never ask anybody to go along final three unless the guest, and today you're our special guest, tells me that you're ready for me to ask. So my question is,
ready.
Are you ready? Look at that. I couldn't even get the question out of my mouth. I knew you were ready, man. Fantastic. Well, listen, Mike, we started with you over in Minnesota, that fantastic state that has over 10,000 lakes. And now I want to bring it back to this side of the pond over here in Europe, because I live in Barcelona now, although I'm originally from Columbus, Ohio, but Europe's been home for the last 20 years. So I would love for you to share with the rest of the Going Long family, what is your favorite European city, either that you visited or still on your bucket list to visit?
Oh man, I have so many. I've been to most of the countries over there, but I'd say Dubrovnik is probably my favorite. I love Croatia.
Croatia's awesome, man. Absolutely. Dubrovnik. So that's Mike's, that's his favorite European city. And we're going to go ahead and include that also in the show notes. And the second thing, and you have had lots and lots of experiences, right? And this is something that I have actually seen from successful people, which is question number 2. And I consider you somebody who's very successful, Mike, as well, on many different aspects of your life and impacting others. And the thing that I've noticed about really successful people is that the reason that they typically are successful is because they typically do the right thing the first time, and they don't make it. I get all nervous and stuff like that. No, I think I made a mistake. No, actually, it's an inside joke with me and the Going Long family. So don't worry. I didn't get all frozen up. But the reality is, people that are successful, they make lots of mistakes. You know why, Mike? Because everybody makes mistakes. And the people that are successful typically make a whole lot more than most people, like a whole lot more. But the reality is that they do one thing that is honestly very, very different. Especially those mistakes or those learning opportunities, or however you want to call them, when they're major or they're extremely relevant, they take time every time and they learn from the mistake. And then what they do is they put tactics, action strategies in place to minimize the probability of that exact same thing happening to them again in the future. And I would love for you to think not on the mistake, or that one mistake or that one learning opportunity, but most importantly, what is the one lesson that you know that somebody here in the Going Long family needs to hear today to help them move forward and minimize the probability of something extremely relevant happening to them along the way?
I think my biggest life mistake was making money the goal. Right. My mom was broke. My dad didn't have any time for us. So at an early age, I decided that I was going to make a ton of money to be able to take care of mom and make her happy and buy my time back so I could be there for my kids' soccer games. And that's how I had such a drive to be successful. And then I had more money than I had ever had in my whole life, but still felt more bankrupt than I had ever been. And so that's when I realized that the goal is not money. The goal is freedom and relationships with our creator, relationships with the people that you want to leave an impact on. And that's when I truly changed my life, that the drive is towards relationship. And once you have those relationships, guess what happens? God shows up and he blesses you because now you're a distribution hub for his blessings. And so when you find a way to build a life that is about impacting other people, I believe that God will pour more into you because he finds ways to use you as a conduit to get his blessings out in the world.
Love that, man. Being able to focus on relationships, strong relationships, pouring into those relationships and not being focused on the money. And I know it's a similar background, but both of my parents worked 2 jobs and watched them and stuff like that. And so there's this motor within me as well. And at a certain point, you realize, hey, look, it's not about the money. It's about how can you go out and impact others. So appreciate you sharing that, keeping it real, keeping it transparent, which takes us into the very last question of the Going Long Final 3. And I mentioned earlier today, and I know you're going to talk to us a bit more about how people can find out about your book, because you literally wrote the book on commercial real estate investing. But I'd love for you to share one other book that you would recommend to the Going Long family today.
How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie.
Classic.
That was like one of the first books I ever read. And I still actually have it. I love it so much that I keep all of its principles right here as a constant reminder.
Everybody jump over to the video version. Check it out. I mean, he's got this. I'm not even going to tell you. You got to come over to the video version. Check out the video, what he just showed. Amazing. And it's literally in front of him every single day. So, wow, man, these conversations at the mic, they just fly by, man. And I know you're a podcast host and I know you've got things going on over at Creative Commercial Real Estate Podcast. But when you're in these conversations, they just fly by. And I'm thinking about you talking to us from the very beginning of the conversation, and you talking to us as you went to your local business college and you were studying, and then you got started, and then you wanted real life experience. And so you got that, and you did that for a couple of summers, and then you went out and beyond in your senior year, you went out and started your own business, and you did that for about 10 years. And then eventually, you know what? You got burnt out. You wanted to do some other things. And so you realized that, hey, listen, I'm going to start to pour my time and my energy, figure out how I can go out and evaluate in specific opportunities, specific locations. And then there's that teacher element in you that says, hey, listen, I'm learning all this stuff, but how can I also help other people to learn what I'm learning, help them to go out and get to their goals, to their dreams, and do it in a way that is much more efficient and much faster. And this specific focus that you hit on, helping people take out one of the major barriers, which is helping them to generate leads and have specific processes in place and be able to go out and focus on building relationships and being able to not only build those relationships, cultivate those relationships so you can make more impact on others. You've done that through not only writing your own book, be able to start your own podcast as well beyond that, but also building a business where you continue to serve others directly, indirectly. And I know there's so many people that are part of the Going Long family are thinking, wow, Mike is really awesome. I want to find out more about what he's got going on. I want to find out more about his companies. I want to read his book. I want to find out more about his franchise opportunities. Help us understand, what's the best way for the Going Long family to find out more about you and get in touch with you and your team?
Sure. Yeah, you can find my book on Amazon. The easiest way is probably search Mike Sowers, Sowers. And then I'd say check out our website, commercialinvestorsgroup.com. On there, you can actually download a free PDF of my book. There's a webinar that if you watch, you can get a free audio version of my book. And then I also have a lot of other great resources. We have a video. If you have a lot of capital, but not a lot of time, and you want to partner with us on deals, we have a done for you program. You can join us in our fund. If you're interested in duplicating our success in one of the US markets, feel free to reach out and on the website and learn more about our franchise opportunities. And if you don't have a lot of cash, but you're just getting started and you want to go deeper than the book is able to do, we do have an online course on there that's pretty cool. And I basically paid a film crew to follow me for 6 weeks doing everything that I do. And I made a low cost option for people that are just getting started. They don't have a lot of capital to invest, but they want something that goes deeper. And so I put that course together to kind of give back some of the secrets.
All right. Fantastic. And also make sure you check out Mike and his podcast, Creative Commercial Real Estate Podcast. Listen, man, I really appreciate you investing your time with me and the entire Going Long family. We're going to include everything you just talked about in the show notes. So we'll make it really easy and simple for the Going Long family to contact you, reach out, and continue the conversation. So with that, I just want to say thank you very much, Mike, for investing your time today. Thank you.
Yeah, it was an honor. Thanks for having me.
All right. Fantastic. If you give me just a couple seconds, say last words for the Going Long family. Once again, listen, like I said, I wanted to drop the mic a couple of times during Mike's conversation today. So I'm sure that you were able to take away so many different actionable items. Mike's made it really easy also for you to get in touch with him, find out more about what he's doing. I know that I'm looking forward to welcoming you back on the very next conversation. So until then, go out and make it a great day. And thank you very much. Wow. Don't you love hearing from top-notch experts in the field? When I was getting started, I really wish that I would have had access to such experts. And even more, I wish they would have given me like a really simple list of things to follow so that I could have gotten to my goals much faster and been much happier even sooner. So that's why I've created for you the 7 things that you should avoid in order to be successful in long distance investing. And you can pick that up really easily by going to billykeels.com/7 things to avoid. And also, if you liked today's episode, don't forget to leave a 5-star review. I'm looking forward to seeing you on our very next episode, so go out and make it a great day.